Hola y bienvenidos a Elemental Codes de Language School. Me llamo José y vamos a continuar con lección 1, el alfabeto, y es parte 5 y vamos a hablar sobre las vocales y los diptongos, y puedes encontrar esta lección y otros recursos en nuestro sitio de web que es www.elementalcodes.com. So hello and welcome to Elemental Codes Language School. My name is Joseph. We are going to continue with lesson 1, and we're talking about the alphabet in Spanish, and we're going to cover the vowels and diphthongs in this video. And alright, so we've covered the alphabet for the most part. There is more information in the full video, but you can go back and check that out. And this one we're just going to go through the vowels and the diphthongs really quickly, as fast as possible. It's a lot of information, but we're going to cover it. And so there are 5 vowels in Spanish: a, e, I, o, u, and y will sometimes act as I, as we will see. And the vowels will always be pronounced a, e, I, o, u. They're not as drawn out as in English. It's not a, it's a, e, I, o, u. Alright? And so there's a saying that says a, e, I, o, u, el burro sabe más que tú. Alright, which means a, e, I, o, u, the donkey knows more than you. Alright, so the vowels are the only letters besides the ñ that have an accent mark. And usually 99% of the time the accent mark starts on top of the vowel in the left lower corner and goes up to the right. Alright, and there is one other accent mark which we will cover in the beginning of the useful information. Alright, so the stress of the word will depend on a couple factors which we will see here. So in Spanish there are strong vowels and there are weak vowels. The strong vowels are a, I, and o, or a, e, and o, and the weak ones are I and u, which is I and u in Spanish. Alright, so if 2 strong vowels come next to each other, you're going to pronounce each one separately, as in the words real, feo, creer, and leer. And then if the weak vowel it comes next to a strong vowel, what's going to happen is it's going to be compressed into one syllable. So you're not going to pronounce them any differently. You're going to compress them into one syllable. So the examples are gracias. So the I is weak and the A is strong. So this becomes cias. So it becomes one syllable. So you're still pronouncing it gracias, but you're compressing the last 2 syllables into one, which is going to change the stress of the word, as we'll find out later. Alright, so gracias. Bueno. So if you slow it down, it's bueno. Bueno. But the U and the I become one syllable, so it's bueno. Bien. Bien. Siete. Siete. So it's not siete, and it's not bien, it's bien siete. So they just compress into one syllable. So you're not really changing the pronunciation of the vowels, you're just compressing them. Alright, so here are examples. We have AI, and the example is caigo, which means I fall, or I am falling. AY, the Y in this case acts as the I, and you have I, which means there is or there are. EU, which the example is Europa, which means Europe. IA, which is in the word hacia, which means towards, like towards something. IO, as in the word rio, which is a river. OI, as in the word oír, which means to hear. UA, or UA, in the word guantes, which are gloves. UE, as in the word luego. AU, as in the word jaula. EI, as in the word reinar, which means to reign or to rule. Jaula means cage. Reinar means to rule, like a kingdom. EY, as in the word rey, which is a king. IE, as in the word cien, which means 100. IU, as in the word ciudad, which means city. OY, as in the word boy, which is a conjugation of the verb ir, which means to go. So voy means I am going or I go. UI, as in the word cuidado, which you might see on a sign, a yellow sign, if there's a wet floor or anything, it'll say cuidado, which means be careful, or it means caution. Alright, and then UO, which is in the word quota, which is a fee. I'm just going to try to go through all this. Alright, so the only time that you will pronounce the weak vowel in a word is if it has an accent mark. The examples are dia, which is day, cortesía, which is courtesy, egoísta, which is prideful, río. Okay, so this is río. So the other río was a river. This is río, which means he laughed, aún, which means still, saúco, which is an elderberry. Alright, so we have examples dia, cortesía, egoísta, río, aún, y saúco. So all of these have accents on the weak vowel, and so you pronounce them as a separate syllable in this case. So this is going to help you to understand when you should be pronouncing the weak syllable. It's only going to happen when there's an accent. That's the purpose of the accent, is to stress whatever vowel is accented. Now you might say, well, what about the words where there is a accent on the strong vowel next to a weak vowel? How do you pronounce that? Well, you pronounce it as a diphthong. So the reason for the accent is that these words have similar words that don't have the accent that mean different things. So for example, K. K is not pronounced any differently than K without an accent, but it has the accent because in this case, K means what. You're gonna usually find this on interrogative words like what, how much, who, or which, or when. So those words are the words that are accented so that you can tell them apart from the other words that look like them. So K without an accent means that. Or it can mean another thing, but we'll get into that later. So these words are not pronounced any different from a diphthong. They're just accented so that people know what they mean, because they have a twin that doesn't have an accent. Alright, so in Spanish, the accent in a Spanish word is always going to be on the vowel, with the exception of ñ, which is its own separate letter, so it doesn't really count. I mean, it is still an accent, but it doesn't really count. If there is an accent in a Spanish word, it's always going to be on the vowel. The only exception would be ñ, which is not really anything different, but it's always going to be on the vowel, and the vowel that has the accent is the syllable that's going to be stressed. So for example, in this word, if it didn't have an accent, it would be pajardo, but that's not a word, and I've actually said that before I knew any of this information. It's pájaro, pájaro, which is a bird, café, inglés, exámenes, película, etc. Alright, so if no accent is present in the word, then if the word ends in a vowel, an N or an S, then the stress is going to be on the next to the last syllable. If no accent is present on any of the vowels in the word and it ends in a vowel or an N or an S, then the stress is going to be on the next to the last syllable. For example, examen, examen, hola, hola, and I've capitalized the stress. Gracias, gracias, ayuda, ayuda, which means help, ayuda, ayúdame. So bueno, we've already seen bueno, but since it forms a diphthong and it's one syllable, the stress is on the entire syllable, so bueno. So if no accent is present and the word ends in any other consonant besides N, S, or a vowel, if there is no accent in the word and it ends in any other consonant and it doesn't end in the N, the S, or the vowel, then the stress will be on the last syllable. This is going to help you be able to pronounce any word. You're just going to have to remember these rules. If it ends in a vowel, an N or an S, then the stress is on the next to last syllable. But if it ends in any other consonant, then the stress will be on the last syllable. For example, regular, regular, general, general, favor, favor, universidad, universidad, lugar, lugar, etc. So if it ends in anything other than an N, S, or a vowel, then the stress is on the last syllable. If it ends in those three things, well, more than three things, but vowel, the N or S, then the stress is on the next to the last syllable. All right? And then if it has an accent, you're going to stress whatever vowel, whatever syllable is accented. All right? So knowing the written form can help you to identify the pronunciation of the word. So if you know how it's written, you know if it has an accent, you know if it ends in anything other than N, S, or a vowel, then you're going to know how to pronounce it. But this is the rules that you need to get down in order to be able to pronounce anything according to the way that it's pronounced in Spanish. This is going to help you immensely. I wish I would have known this at the beginning of when I started learning Spanish. I would have avoided a lot of mistakes in pronunciation. Alright, so that is the shortest video I think I have so far. And so these are tips that you can use to kind of immerse yourself. I'm not going to get too deep in each one. I'm not going to cover each one extensively, but I'm just going to go over them so you can basically understand. Read books, articles. I suggest if you have a phone, a smartphone, you can get news articles. That's a good tool to use. Get a journal, get a notebook, write stuff down, write down words you don't know. Watch those in English with Spanish subtitles, watch them in Spanish with English subtitles, watch them in Spanish with Spanish subtitles. I would not recommend putting your device in Spanish until you're at a higher level. Listen to podcasts and books. Audible is a great tool. Sometimes it has free books that you can even listen to. If you buy the service, you get 1 free credit every month and you can download whatever book you want. There's some decent books to listen to on Audible. And so set aside some time every day to study. So set aside some time and study. If you want to, the more you study, the more you learn, the more you listen, the more you engage with native speakers, the more you're going to pick up the language, the quicker you're going to pick up the language. You can use flashcards if that's helpful, but I would suggest making friends with people that speak the language that you're interested in. Be sure they're actually normal people, because some people are kind of crazy out there. There are Facebook groups that you can learn the language in, and there's YouTube videos and Rumble videos, just like this one. Alright, and then get books in Spanish on topics that you love to learn, and you can get bilingual books. Like, for example, I have a book that is called Cuentos Españoles, or short Spanish stories. They're short stories that where half of the story, so it's set up to where the left side of the page is in Spanish, and the right side of the page is, I don't know if you can, no, you can't really see this. Alright, so the left side of the page is Spanish, and the right side of the page is English. Alright, so there's a lot, I've got a couple books like this, but I would suggest that you get books that you're interested in. For example, this is a great book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Very good. I've got it in Spanish. Piense y hágase rico. Napoleon Hill. I've also got it in Portuguese. Piense y enriqueza. So those are tools that you can use. And as we progress in this, I'm going to start making more advanced videos for those who want a more advanced Spanish, because right now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to kind of go over the basics and start from scratch, but I think I'm going to do like an intermediate level. and then I'm also going to do a more advanced level, and this is going to also help me because I need to practice it. I used to work with people like 60 plus hours a week who spoke Spanish. I used to do interpreting, and since I started my landscaping business, I only rarely work with people that speak Spanish, so it's kind of difficult for me to continuously immerse myself. So every day I'm reading out loud, and I'm studying, and I'm trying to get to where I used to be. And so you will quickly lose a language if you're not using it, if you're not engaged in it on a regular basis. You want to try to engage yourself in the language as much as possible, and then just enjoy the process. Don't get frustrated. Just enjoy the process. If you don't understand something, go get some tacos. That's gonna be my phrase. Go get some tacos, man. Go get some churros, and then come back to whatever it is you're working on, or go do something else. Go exercise, go do something else. Exercise is great for your brain. So go do some exercise, go get some tacos, go get some churros, and then just come back to it. All right, so hopefully this helps, and we'll get through the next video, which is useful information, and then we will take a quiz, and we will be done with the alphabet, and then we'll get into some other things like numbers. So hopefully this has helped. My name is Joseph, and I will talk to you in the next video. Hasta luego. Ciao, ciao.